Peace and welcome. My name is Omar, and today I would like to talk a little bit about the Quranite movement. And I think I have a lot of things on my mind, and since I would say I am a part of that, I would like to share some of my thoughts, because I don't see like really anybody doing like anything except for Sam Gerrans himself, and everybody else is just going along with that and taking him for the new god. And it sounds very fishy, but not everything that he says, not everything that he talks about life, or the life of a believer, has to be the truth for you. Because Sam Gerrans' life was Sam Gerrans' life, and the God structured his life in a way to fulfill the position he is in right now. And that doesn't mean that you have to be like him to be a believer. Somebody who is maybe younger has some skills too, has some knowledge too. Just because he was at his age of 22 in this state of mind, it is unreasonable to think that a 22-year-old now is on the same level, so to speak. And this is not an attack against Sam. I'm just giving a little bit of a perspective. And I would like to share a little bit about my journey on the Quranite movement. We have to skip some years. I already made a response video where I talk about my life at 15, until I am 15, since I discovered the internet. And I will just begin with the point where I found him. And on that point I had 4 years of traditionalist Islam behind me. I was a Salafi, somebody who was very radical. I was the king of Salafs. I was in a very respective position at a very young age. I didn't have a beard, but the things the amount of knowledge I had about the religion was inconveniently big, and my radicalism, or my my belief, was very, very strong. And that's what I always had. Like, the things I really believed, I did 100%, and I didn't really cared about everybody else. And I had some problems at school, especially when I talked about the Islamic State of Iraq. Maybe I was on the inch of going there too, I don't know. But it was a nice time. It was a nice time. I learned a lot of things in that time. I prayed, I think, 7,200 times in this time. Put my head onto the ground. And I was in the religion of, in the most, I would say, developed religion of this day, which is Sunni Islam. There is no other religion that gets hold on you, that controls you in so many aspects of your life, like Sunni Islam. But I didn't really care. I thought it was for the cause of God. The problem was I never tried to understand the recitation on my own. I just believed. I trusted the people around me. I trusted my friends. I trusted my family. I trusted the people in the mosques because they were so friendly. They were so good. And they loved me just for the way I was. And that was enough for me. It was like coming out of a relatively dark youth. It was a relief. I had like contact with people that loved me just because I believed in God. And this was perfect. And I was also attending at the local mosque. I had some influence there. I attended trips to countries. I was once in Spain at an Islamic camp, one time in the Netherlands. And it was a good time, I guess. But it all changed. It all changed when there was some points, like the highest, where I thought this was the rightest, where I felt the most convinced, or I had the most iman, was actually in Medina. I was in Medina, I was in Mecca. It was very nice in Medina, but it was very bad in Mecca. I could go into detail there, but this is not a rant against Sunni Islam. If I could rant about it, it would probably never stop, but I want to be respectful here. And the experiences I made in Mecca that got me a little bit thinking. I thought of it. I thought about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. How could that fit? Didn't make any sense. And I was in the so-called conspiracy realm. With the internet, of course, came some interesting videos about Palestine and Israel and about Nazi Germany. So conspiracies, we had a lot of conspiracies. Or I had them in my sight, and of course the classic, the all-changing event, 9/11. I was 4 years at that age, but I can remember watching it on TV. I could remember making fun of it and remaking the scenario with my pillows and my plane toys. But if you are in the conspiracy realm, you will eventually see you will see a matrix. And the matrix of the religion of Islam and the outer matrix of the elite. I was kind of in a double matrix, like Keanu Reeves. And I got into that conflict, and the big question I had at the end was flat Earth. Flat Earth was like the decision the decision that, or it was the point of it was the paradigm shift, because nothing, I had never seen something like that before. The amount of deception towards this subject. So I was like, what does the Quran says? Because the Sunni Muslims, and you will see it in the YouTube videos of them, where they have the recitations of Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and then you see like the animation of of the earth, and people say, well, the earth, the ball earth is in the Quran. People knew that 1,400 years ago. Join Islam and everything. Islam is scientific, so on and so on. So they use that as an argument, but of course when it is false, you have a big problem. And I knew when the earth was in fact flat, I knew that the whole religion of Islam is fake too. It has to be. And I was at the point of giving it up. The prayers, they didn't fulfilled me, and there were some things in my personal life that changed like very rapidly, and I was searching in YouTube about flat Earth and the Quran, and I came upon a video from Quran Centric. But it wasn't convincing. I think Quran Centric still believes to that day that the ball is round. Well, I'm not here to judge anybody. But there was one comment on one of his videos. Maybe I can find it, and it was not exactly, but nearly 2 years ago. And he said, you should check out Sam Gerrans. And this name just popped off. I was like, alright, let's click on it. Let's type it into the search bar. And the moment you get into the YouTube realm of Sam Gerrans, you see that something is different. You see that something is different. Like the whole this. You have the symbol on the top right or the top left, I don't know. And you have like a lot of videos with a lot of time. And I was on, I think it was Quran, Islam, Quran, NASA, Flat Earth or something. And it was just, you saw the intro, you can hear the intro. And then he started to talk first time. And it's just, it was just like somebody from a different planet who had actually intelligence and intellect, something I only found in myself, and that in that extent was speaking to me. It was just at the first one. It was just a pleasure. It was just pure joy to hear him. I was just like, finally. And of course I absorbed everything like a sponge. And I started at the bottom. And then I began to understand what this is all about. Slowly, very slowly. And after some videos, I decided to download the Quran, a complete revelation. And it was just like, well, I think that's it. That is the bottom of all. I'm finally there. Like, it was such an overwhelming relief. And it's like you dived deep into the ocean, your whole life. And you could feel the pressure of the water and the darkness, and you will see those deep sea creatures with the lanterns, the light bulbs on their heads. And then you finally get onto the ground, and you are there. Like, everything makes sense now. And from the one day to the other, I stopped praying. And this was like, it was like, I didn't stop praying to God, but I stopped in those, traditional prayers. And the thing about Sam's videos are that he essentially is a different person in every video. He has like this very formal style, and it's mainly due to his his work, his job he had. And it was just like the life story. It was just, man, that could have been me in a sense. And I see a lot of things in Sam that are like me. I see myself in him, kind of. And the videos, they're just varied. It was unpredictable. You never knew what kind of video was coming. And there were some who were really deep. Really deep. Like the bottom of his soul. And some which were very funny. Well, brother, how do you pray? And in every video I had a little piece added. I had a little bit more about the person. And it's not like, okay, there is a new video, and I really think that he is like this in real life. I don't think he's like that. The opposite. Like, this is a phenomenon in the internet that, like, people, they see a picture and they think that the person is like this. And it's just a picture. And these are just audio recordings and thumbnails, and you have a beautiful intro, maybe. But like Sam, I know that everybody in the world who can speak English and German too, like, I had my German videos, I made them like the past year, and now I'm switching to English because for obvious reasons. It is I don't know. It is kind of strange to sit here and talk about it. But I lost my point. Sometimes I'm just overthinking, and a lot of people don't like the way I talk or whatever. I don't care. But I know that people who are like myself, who are believers, real believers, they can understand that. They can understand the depth of my thoughts, the depth of my talks, the depth of my voice. There's just a lot of people who cannot resonate, who cannot hear the words when I speak in that way. Because it is too, I wouldn't say absolute, but of course it's not absolute, but like it is, you can, it is closer to truth. Actually the closest to truth. And people don't like truth in any kind of way. Like objective truth, they don't like that. So you have to be a little bit more, I don't know. You have to be a little bit more sympathetic or empathetic. I don't know. You know what I mean. Like, oh, you have always to be funny and always exciting. This is like so exciting. Oh my god. And today I would like to talk about, yeah, you know what I mean. This is what you have to do when you're in the university. In university you can't go like that, with that attitude. You have to be a chameleon. You have to adapt to your surroundings. And this is what a believer does. A believer observes and he adapts. And when he adapts, he becomes the best in what he is adapting. Isn't that right? And yeah, so 20 minutes and I didn't really knew what I was talking about. Because there's so much. So I lost my point again. I don't really know what the title of this video should be. But yeah, I want to talk about the Quranite movement. Some things I noticed, and the first one is paranoia. And I am on meetquranites.com, and there's a problem with that. I don't know if it's still up, but I mean, why should I trust? Like, only because somebody is logging into meetquranites.com doesn't mean he is a believer. Only because somebody sends me a message on the email doesn't mean that he is a believer. And everything he says, everything he supposedly does on his profile or whatever, it could be fake. And the chance that it could be fake is 50%. And as we know from the Quran, the people who spurn guidance while claiming virtue try to deceive you for whatever reason. They try to deceive you, and they will try to deceive you. So why should I trust anyone? There is no real reason to. And I think Sam knows this. Because when you ask him, hey, let's go for a coffee, I don't think that he would do that. A lot of people ask him. I guess. And in my German YouTube time, I spoke like that, but of course in German. And I had a lot of people writing me and doing the same tactics, the same strategies. And there were some who did a lot of effort, but I was able to show to them that they were liars. And it is very frightening. Like, when you see someone, like, doing so much to try to convince you to meet, it is, of course, it is not a good feeling you have. Because potentially he could be anyone. And we know that those who spurn guidance while claiming virtue are our enemies, and they could potentially try to kill us. And this is a situation in which you might want to... you don't want to be like that and go blindly into meeting someone you never knew, and just by online communication, very poorly communication. So what I think was or is the best idea is just to be someone who is kind of independent from that, and who has like his own controversial thoughts about some sensitive topics regarding the Quranite movement and whatever people understand of it, because I don't think that roughly anybody really understands. You see sometimes people who are just like so out of place, who say like things like, I once had someone who said he had a problem, and excuse me, there were some I contacted, and I had some Skype calls, some phone calls, and some face-to-face Skype conversations, so on and so forth. And there were some individuals who said, or I tried to give him advice, because like the problem they had, they were just like, well, is this a problem for you? Like those things you're just, this is like nothing. Like, how could this be a hindrance or a problem for you? Just look what the Quran says and do it. And they said, well, scripture helps. What do you mean, scripture helps? Scripture is the only reason why I am talking to you. It is the only reason why I make all of this, why I make all those videos. What do you say it helps? What do you mean by that? Like, it is the main focus, isn't it? Like, what the book says, what God says, this is the thing that really matters. And it's just like, well, what does this mean, and what does that mean, and people who live with disbelievers together, and it is just their, I don't know. Like Sam once said, it's a parlor game. But this is not a game. And it will get, eventually it will get that serious. We have to prepare for that. We have to prepare ourselves to get that serious. And by that serious, I mean that, that serious. I don't know how I could be more explicit. And I don't see any progress of those people. I don't see any improvements in any way. It's just like, oh, I just do nothing, I guess. It doesn't really matter. And of course you can't know, you can't judge the people through the internet. So you have to go along with everyone. You have to go along with everyone. until the point comes where or the probability is really high that he is not a believer. And it's mainly because of those kind of vague statements, and also because they are not really interested in the verses. They are not really interested in like realness. And this is the next point I would like to make. The next point is that real, like in the criminal world, real recognize real. And this is how believers identify themselves. Real recognize real. There's not a deductive process behind that, or an application you have to write and then somebody has to acknowledge it or in some way, but you see it. You see it. It is like we are a big family, a weird family, a crazy, very crazy family, but a righteous family. And we are all over the world. But we know. We just simply do. We just simply find ourselves and we just simply know that the other one is a believer. That's what I believe. That's what I conclude. And I conclude that because I know that I am a believer, and I know that Sam is a believer. Because I wouldn't be here if it was not for Sam's effort and for his work. And maybe I will connect to my main point here, which was life-changing. It simply was life-changing. And I have to acknowledge that in the first months, I ordered the hard copy, the big one. I didn't touch it. I hadn't touched it for 5-6 months. Because I was on a mission. I was on a mission to bring that, what I vaguely studied. I studied Sam Gerrans. I observed him. I didn't touch the Quran because I was like so interested in his person and in his life and his YouTube career, how he changed and everything. And it was, of course, a big mistake looking back at it, but now I'm very glad. And yeah, I knew, if you want to know, I spotted another one who I thought he was a believer, but in fact he was a waverer. And my mission was to give this information I had, so the work of Sam Gerrans, to this person, because I thought it was, I don't know, it would be changing a lot. But after realizing that he was a waverer, not only after realizing that, but a little bit more, like I realized I had the proof that he was a waverer just nearly a month ago. But at the time I was communicating with that person, I became closer to God. I became closer to the Quran. And I started with the audio recordings. And this is a really good way to get like this broader understanding of the Quran. because you have to get used to it. You have to condition yourself in a way to be receptive to the words, because those words are the absolute. Those words are facts. Those words are truths, universal truths. And you can make a lot of it. You can deduce a lot of it into the real world. You have the word of God, and like those it is set truths. And you look at the reality you know now, you have to delete everything except for that which can be connected with the word of God. It's kind of it's hard to explain, but there are the audio recordings of Sam are very underrated, I think. I don't see a lot of people commenting on that. But I downloaded all of them, and I was always going for a long pilgrimage. And my walks, they developed as much as my understanding. So at first it was just like normal going for a walk. I never did that before, but I just needed it around the block. And then it was like, okay, to this location, which was like 500 meters away. And then that location, it was a little bit further. And always directing into nature. It was always like, it was like a little pond. And then it was a lake. And then it was the forest. And then the same forest, but like in the depth of the forest. And then you make like a 20-kilometer walks while fasting and listening to the Quran, while wearing flip-flops. Was a very nice time. And this is where the strength came from, because it was the time and the connection I had with that person at that time, even though he was wavering, the moments he was not, the moments he was a believer, were just different world. It is a different kind of consciousness you have, different quality of life. And to realize that because there is a backstory behind that person. It's just not that he's somebody I knew from school or something. It is like really heavy. Unbelievable, in fact. It is unbelievable. It was, yeah, it changed me a lot. It changed me a lot. And I had the Sam Gerrans videos on the one side, who were like the extended experience of someone who lives upon the commands of God. And I had myself and the things I experienced that Sam didn't said, and he didn't made a video about. And so it was like going on a different way, but into the same direction. It is still now, and I think it's with every believer. Every believer has his own story. Everybody has his unique weaknesses, his unique strengths, skills, talents, his unique story, like an incredible and sad but very beautiful story. And yeah, now I'm here talking to this microphone again. And yeah, so 40 minutes, I think that is enough. I don't know, I really didn't got the point. It was just like, well, just I just wanted to talk. I just want to talk. I have a lot of things in my head, and sometimes it's just a good idea to say, to talk. And maybe it's good if you just talk to yourself. You never know who will hear that words. You never know what kind of impact it has. And yeah, that's the reason I do this. And I hoped you learned something. I hoped you got an insight to my journey. It is a journey. And yeah, I don't know if you will hear this ever, Sam. I don't know. God willing, you will. And that's it for today.